Good morning, everyone. I'm Dan Garodnick, Chair of the City Planning Commission and Director of the Department of City Planning, and welcome to today's public meeting of September 3rd, 2025. We're going to kick things off with a few votes before moving on to our public hearing, starting with an office space acquisition by the New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, and the New York City Department of Human Resources Administration, or HRA, at 555 East Tremont Avenue in the Bronx. Since 1968, HRA has used this site as a client service center, with its 165 employees providing services like temporary cash assistance, SNAP benefits, Medicaid, and emergency intervention programs for New Yorkers. This application would renew their lease for another 20 years. We'll next vote on Domino Site B in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. This new mixed-use building would include over 1,200 new homes, 315 of them income restricted. Initially approved as part of the Domino Sugar large-scale general development, this project has undergone several design changes that require additional land use actions. As the final piece of the Domino Sugar revitalization, the building would be near Domino Park and the B32 and Q59 buses. From there, we'll head to Queens to vote on the ICOS Senior Living Development at 3107 31st Street in Astoria. This proposal would replace a municipal parking lot with a 100% income-restricted affordable project across two buildings, one with nearly 170 senior apartments under HPD's AIRS program, and the other with a community facility that includes social services through HANIC, LBGTQ plus services, fresh food access through the Grow NYC partnership, workforce development, and technology classes through Queens College. The site is located right next to the N&W trains at the Broadway station, which is currently constructing elevators for ADA compliance. The last vote for today is on the One LIC Neighborhood Plan, a proposal by the Department of City Planning to bring nearly 15,000 new homes, over 14,000 new jobs, and a transformed public waterfront to Long Island City, Queens. I'll have more to say on that one shortly. Switching gears to our public hearings, we will start today with a proposal by the Departments of Parks and Recreation and Citywide Administrative Services that would allow the agencies to potentially purchase a selection of vacant or underbuilt privately owned sites for future development as parks. Focusing on Queens Community District 3 and Brooklyn Community District 5, this proposal is the first part of an ongoing city effort to close the so-called walk to a park gap to ensure more New Yorkers live close to public parks. This initiative was highlighted in the Get Stuff Built report as a way to speed the creation of open space for New Yorkers. The Commission will also hold a public hearing on a proposal to create 300 new homes, more than 80 of them income-restricted affordable, and include commercial and community facility space at 1720 Atlantic Avenue in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. This development would be surrounded by lots of public green space, including Harmony Park, Imani Gardens, and Buddy Keaton Fields, and would sit a few blocks from the A and C trains at Utica Avenue, the Interfaith Medical Center, and the Weeksville Heritage Center. New Yorkers are also invited to testify on 699 to 703 Lexington Avenue, a proposed building in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, with 85 transitional homes and supportive services for women and gender nonconforming individuals. The applicant here, Providence House, is a nonprofit dedicated to helping women and families at risk of harm who have histories of homelessness or who have interacted with the criminal justice system. The project would be near Jesse Owens Playground, the B38, B46, and B52 bus lines, and the J train at Kosciuszko Street. Next up, a public hearing on an MTA initiative to transform a vacant lot at the corner of 125th Street and Lexington Avenue in East Harlem into a mixed-use building with roughly 680 homes above the future terminus of the 2nd Avenue subway. Following the Midtown South mixed-use plan, this is the second land use application to enter public review that would use new high-density zoning districts enabled by City of Yes for housing opportunity. It's also the first such application from a non-city applicant. Created after the repeal of the state's FAR cap, these higher density districts require mandatory inclusionary housing and will be powerful tools to help address New York City's housing shortage. We'll next head to Times Square for a hearing on an application to modify signage regulations to allow a new LED sign on the side of 1551 Broadway. The sign would be about 120 feet tall and overlook Father Duffy Square. Last, we will open the floor to testimony on an application to demap a portion of St. Raymond Avenue between Blondell Avenue and Water Street in the Bronx. The proposed action could allow future lot consolidation for redevelopment. Most of the street that's proposed to be demapped does not actually exist in practice. It's occupied almost entirely by the Westchester MTA rail yard. So with that, Madam Secretary, let's get this meeting started.
Good morning. This is a City Planning Commission public meeting held remotely and in person in the CPC Hearing Room, 120 Broadway, Lower Concourse. Today is Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. I will now call the roll. Chair Garodnick.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Benjamin. Present. Commissioner Cerullo. Here. Commissioner Crowell.
Present.
Commissioner Dewick.
Here.
Commissioner Gold.
Here.
Commissioner Goodrich is absent. Commissioner Kermani, I believe we have on Zoom.
Here.
Commissioner Mann is on Zoom.
Here.
Commissioner Marin is on Zoom.
Here.
Commissioner Osorio.
Here.
And Commissioner Ramprashad is on Zoom.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the public meeting of Wednesday, August 13, 2025.
Great. I'm going to make a motion to approve those minutes of August 13, seconded by Commissioner Gold. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, thank you. Sorry, smidge of a delay with the folks on Zoom. We got you. The minutes are approved. Thank you.
Scheduling. Calendar number 1, scheduling Wednesday, September 17, 2025 for a public hearing to be held in person in the CPC Hearing Room, 120 Broadway, and remotely.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the resolution. Thank you, Commissioner Benjamin, for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Okay, resolution's approved.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 5. Borough of the Bronx, calendar number 2, 555 East Tremont, CD6, N260011PXX, in the matter of an application for the notice of intent to acquire office space concerning 555 East Tremont. For a favorable report on calendar number 2, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Well, I'm not opposed to a lease for HRA, especially one where there has been a presence in a community for some 57 years, and there's a dependence, no doubt, upon the existence of HRA. What has troubled me about this particular proposal is that a city agency has been here for 57 years, occupying the entirety of the building. And apparently until this very moment of lease renewal, there's been no consideration of buying the building. And I just think that is frankly inept on the part of the city agency that's responsible for these kinds of decisions. It's not a particular outcome. Whether the city buys the building or decides not to buy the building is ultimately their decision. But not making the decision and presenting the lease as a matter of urgency, and then sending a letter saying, among other things, that should HRA lose this site, it would be extremely challenging to identify a suitable replacement facility within the community. Well, you know, why not remove that possibility, or at least investigate the possibility of removing that possibility? So I support the continuing presence of HRA, but I would hope that in the future, DCAS would come to us with future leases, with future lease considerations, where there are opportunities to purchase, having done the due diligence, so that we don't have to raise the questions here. I vote yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I'd like to be associated with the comments of the Vice Chair. Obviously, I've raised the question also of why we have not looked at purchasing this building since we do occupy the entirety. We've been here for almost 60 years, and we'll be there for a lot longer. The building from the outside is not in great repair, so I'm not sure that the owner, knowing they have a captive audience, is in fact investing or continuing to invest in the capital required to make this building attractive to the clientele, attractive to the neighborhood. So I'm not sure what and how we've been negotiating in the past, but it hasn't resulted in my mind in a desirable situation. I'm not opposed to this being used for HRA. The location is good for that, but the process has not been a good one. And having presented it as a 195 lease, it can't be changed to a purchase. That would have had to have been an application for acquisition, which is a full ULURP, not a 30-day process. The letter that the Deputy Commissioner has sent with respect to my questions doesn't really answer the question as to why in 60 years they haven't looked at purchasing the building or in upgrading the appearance of the building. Is that part of the lease negotiation? We don't know. And this letter doesn't really explain that. It just goes through a list of horribles that the existing lease terminated at the end of August, and if they don't get this now, even though it's going to the council after us potentially for up to 20 days, they could be evicted, they could have to leave. There's a whole list of horribles that somehow will happen if they don't get this now. Did they not know 5 months ago that the lease was going to be up? We don't know. But now we're placed in the position of being told that if there's any delay in this, then these horribles will happen, HRA will be out on the street, and the clients will have no place to go for services. I resent that. That's not what actually has happened here. And I think that the agency should really look to the procedures that they followed, because all of this could have been avoided if they had done the work. And I would hope this will be an example to them that in the future, before coming with an office lease in a situation like this, they actually review whether the lease is the appropriate method of acquisition and have an application that reflects all possibilities. I am really annoyed at this process, but I'm trying not to let my annoyance be in the forefront, because then I would vote no, just because I think this process was a sham. Could we skip me for a minute while I...
Sure. Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dueck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Madden.
Yeah, so I also would like to associate myself with the comments made by the Vice Chair and Commissioner Benjamin. You know, you don't find out at the last minute that a lease is due, and DCAS should be having these lease expirations on some sort of tickler so they can be reminded of when leases are going to expire. Additionally, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was told to us that DCAS was no longer approving 20-year leases, but only approving 5 or 10-year leases with 5 and 10-year renewables, so they consider a move for the agency, whichever agency it was that they were representing at that time. It is critical to continue the work that HRA is doing in the Bronx at this location. I too am not at all happy with this process. However, knowing that we're being held against the wall and, you know, HRA is in jeopardy of space, we don't want to jeopardize that for the city of New York. So my vote is yes. having stated the facts that I have.
Commissioner Osorio.
I vote yes and agree with Vice Chair Knuckles, Commissioners Benjamin and Marin.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I too associate myself with the comments made by Commissioner Marin, Benjamin, and Vice Chair Knuckles, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
I am not going to let my peek at the process cause me to vote in a way that I don't believe. I do believe this is an appropriate location for the services that are being delivered. So I'm going to vote yes reluctantly.
A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 2. Borough of Brooklyn, calendar numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Domino Site B, CD1, calendar number 3, C250276 ZSK. Calendar number 4, C250278 ZSK. Calendar number 5, N250275 ZRK. Calendar number 6, M220462 ELDK. Calendar number 7, M140132 ZSK. In the matter of applications for special permits, a zoning text amendment, a modification to a previously approved restrictive declaration, and a modification to a previously approved special permit concerning Domino Site B. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 3, 4, and 5, and for the adoption of calendar numbers 6 and 7, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cirillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes, I vote yes, but I would recommend an amendment to the report where the City Planning Commission considers encouraging the applicant to increase the amount of renewable energy produced on site to fully comply with local laws 92 and 94. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 3, 4, and 5, and calendar numbers 6 and 7 have been adopted. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 8, 9, and 10. ICO Senior Living. CD1, calendar number 8, C250208 ZMQ. Calendar number 9, N250209 ZRQ. Calendar number 10, C250207 HAQ. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, UDAP designation, project approval, and disposition of city-owned property concerning ICO Senior Living. For favorable reports on calendar numbers 8, 9, and 10, Chair Garodnick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Aye.
Commissioner Cirillo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
Yes.
Commissioner Kamani.
Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner Marin.
Yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
Yes.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
Yes.
Favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 8, 9, and 10. Borough of Queens, calendar numbers 11 through 17, Long Island City Neighborhood Plan, CDs 1 and 2, calendar number 11, C250176 ZMQ, calendar number 12, N250177 ZRQ, calendar number 13, C250175 HAQ, calendar number 14, C250178 PCQ, calendar number 15, C250179 PPQ, calendar number 16, C250180 PPQ, calendar number 17, C250224 MMQ. In the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments, UDAP designation, project approval, dispositions of city-owned properties, site selection, acquisition, and a city map amendment concerning Long Island City Neighborhood Plan. For favorable reports as modified on calendar numbers 11 and 12, and for favorable reports on calendar numbers 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Chair Garodnick.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. And before casting my vote, I just want to take a moment to speak about the importance of this neighborhood plan. For the last 25 years, Long Island City has been one of New York City's most dynamic neighborhoods. While many parts of it have experienced remarkable residential growth over the last 2 decades, other parts feel frozen and are held back by outdated zoning that restricts new housing and business growth. And even where housing is allowed, there are no requirements for affordability. With a citywide vacancy rate of 1.41%, a number that's even lower in Queens, we need to make a change and bring forth the housing opportunities that New Yorkers deserve. And we can do so with the One LIC plan. With its central location, access to multiple subway and bus lines, strong local economy, and excellent amenities, Long Island City is exactly where the city should be adding more housing, and that's what this holistic plan will bring forth. Through these proposed zoning changes, we will set the stage for around 14,700 new homes across a 54-block area, including 4,300 permanently income-restricted affordable homes. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development has committed to build 320 income-restricted homes on a city-owned site, and we're thrilled to partner with them on this plan. In total, this would be the most amount of housing generated by a neighborhood-specific rezoning in at least 25 years, and very likely the most since the creation of the modern zoning resolution in 1961. A truly tremendous milestone in our ongoing work to create a more equitable New York City. This plan is more than just about housing, though. Long Island City has long been an economic hub, and the One LIC plan will help make sure that it stays that way by significantly boosting commercial and manufacturing capacity in the industrial sub-area, where many of the neighborhood's jobs are already located. The addition of over 3.5 million square feet of new commercial and industrial uses will generate around 14,400 more jobs, creating a true live-work community where New Yorkers can find economic prosperity close to home. To further support Long Island City residents and workers, the New York City Economic Development Corporation is pursuing a request for information for 4436 Vernon Boulevard to inform future activation of this city-owned site for uses that serve the community. This could include a variety of commercial, cultural, industrial, or retail uses, all with the community at the forefront. As essential as homes and jobs are to our planning work, infrastructure and amenities are also necessary to make a series of blocks feel like a neighborhood. This plan doubles down on the public realm of Long Island City, delivering a continuous, resilient waterfront along the East River that will connect Gantry Plaza State Park with Queensbridge Park. Part of that green stretch will be a reimagined Annabelle Basin that provides a considerable amount of open space, improved flood resiliency, and easy public access to the water. The plan also includes incentives for buildings that create plazas, squares, or other open space amenities for the public. The product of a thorough and thoughtful 18-month planning process with the community, the One LIC neighborhood plan strikes the right balance to create much-needed new homes, require income-restricted, affordable homes, boost good-paying jobs, and deliver important infrastructure investments to help this neighborhood thrive. With this plan, we are unlocking a brighter future for Long Island City, one where more families can find an affordable place to live, where businesses can open and succeed, and where residents, workers, and visitors alike can enjoy a flourishing green space in a more active, vibrant, and welcoming community. Of course, this plan would not have been possible without the fantastic leadership and partnership of Councilmember Julie Wan, who we look forward to continuing to work with through the fall. I'd also like to express my thanks to Queens Borough President Donovan Richards and Queens Community Boards 1 and 2 for their supportive recommendations. My thanks as well to every New Yorker and local stakeholder who spoke at a public hearing, participated in a workshop, or otherwise got involved in this planning work. We would not be here today without your contributions, so thank you. Finally, I would like to give a shout out to the dedicated staff at the Department of City Planning, who helped us to get to this point, including a variety of sub-offices within the agency, including the Council, Economic Development and Regional Planning, Environmental Assessment and Review, Housing, Strategic Planning, Technical Review, Transportation, Urban Design, Zoning, Communications, Intergov Affairs, Community Planning and Engagement, and, last but not least, the Queens Borough Office. I'd especially like to thank Hye-Kyung Yang for her tireless work in leading this project with her committed team, including Ryan Jacobson, Colin Ryan, Katie Crawford, Derek Jasmine, Dalton Walker, Begley Lexchiner, Greg Miller, Mariam Yagubi, Emily Sun, Dee Lee, Kenny Santiago Pagan, Jameson Mitchell, Winnie Shen, John O'Neill, Connie Chan, Shane Myers, Anna Tu, James Harris, Joe Marvilli, Casey Berkovitz, Juanita Halim, Claire Ogilvie Lang, Abraham Abreu, Jack Darcy, Angela Belicio, Sarah Sad, Tom Smith, Siobhan Jackson, Lucy Robeson, and Sophia Filippone, with support from directors and deputy directors across the divisions, including, and certainly do not want their last names being on my list to indicate where they are on this list, but the amazing director and deputy director of the Queensborough office, Lynn Zhang and Kathy Coe. Now, obviously, a lot of people put a lot of work into this. Just mentioned a lot of folks. We're very proud of where we landed. I want to thank them all for everything that they did to make this possible. Look forward to the next steps. With that, I happily and enthusiastically vote aye. Thank you.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
I believe the Queen's office has just won an Oscar. I vote yes.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Yes.
Commissioner Trullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowell.
Yes, and I want to associate myself with the chair's comments and thank him for his exceptional leadership over this and congratulate the Queen's office and the teams across the department for a tremendous effort. It was really inspiring, and the vision for this for the one LIC plan is tremendous, so thank you.
Commissioner Dewick.
Yes.
Commissioner Gold.
I'd also like to associate myself with the comments of the chair and thank the Queen's office, and I vote yes.
Commissioner Kermani.
Yes, and I too will associate myself with the comments of the chair and Commissioner Crowell, and a huge congratulations to the department and the Queen's office. Yes.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes, with tremendous congratulations to the Queen office. Sorry not to be on camera today, but congratulations, and I vote yes. And I know there's some more work to be done on addressing the environmental impacts disclosed in the FAIS, and I hope that working with the council, the department can do that, but I vote yes.
Commissioner Marin.
To the Queen's office, great thank you for the Herculean efforts that you have demonstrated here, and with that, I vote yes.
Commissioner Osorio.
As the chair said, and as the other commissioners mentioned, I also appreciate all the work that the Department of City Planning has done here. I specifically want to thank the department for the written responses to all of my questions. I especially appreciate the honesty and the transparency of the staff in disclosing the results of the environmental impact assessment. But I respectfully will vote no, because I cannot support a proposal of this scale in good conscience, leaving critical significant adverse impacts unaddressed. According to the final environmental impact statement, the list includes, but is not limited to, public schools, libraries, open space, and air quality. I want to underscore that this is a disadvantaged community designation, underscoring the need for special attention under the New York State climate change laws, namely the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. Equally important, I understand that the future of the Vernon site is still to be determined, but at the current stage of the process, I cannot support a proposal until there is a guarantee that if housing were to be developed here in public land, it would be 100% affordable. As other commissioners mentioned, I really hope that these items can be addressed as the proposal moves forward, where I also want to encourage the department to strengthen flood resiliency strategies, particularly outside of the waterfront blocks governed by the Waterfront Access Plan. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramprashad.
I too would like to thank the CPC staff as well as the Queen's office for their hard work and all the follow-ups. They did a fantastic job, both with this one and obviously the Jamaica rezoning as well. I would also like to thank all those who testified at the hearing, as well as I'd like to thank the Borough President, as well as Community Board 1 and 2 for their thoughtful and comprehensive report and recommendations, which has provided great insight into the community's needs, such as more thoughtful open space design, waterfront access, more schools, affordable housing, and need to improve infrastructure, which will keep up with the development pace. This rezoning will no doubt provide great opportunities, not only for more jobs, both commercial and manufacturing, and more housing, as previously mentioned, but also the opportunity for much needed affordable housing in this area. In order for this to work, city agencies like HPD, DOT, DEP, Parks will need to follow through on their commitments. And just like with the Jamaica rezone, I would ask that the council level mechanisms be put in place to assure this. As someone who has been going to LIC for the past 20 years, I've had a chance to witness not only the views of Manhattan, the food both at the trucks and at the restaurants, but also access the waterfront, use the ferry, and also enjoy the neighborhood and watch this development and growth. I look forward to seeing this community grow even more, and I vote yes.
Favorable reports as modified have been adopted on calendar numbers 11 and 12, and favorable reports have been adopted on calendar numbers 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 7.
Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations again to the LIC team. And we'll note that we're going to ask members of the public to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Let's get started with the first item.
Borough of Queens and Brooklyn, calendar numbers 18 and 19. Calendar number 18, C250297 PCQ, Queens CD3 Walk to Park. Calendar number 19, C250298 PCK, Brooklyn CD5 Walk to Park. Public hearing in the matter of applications for site selections and acquisitions concerning Queens CD3 Walk to Park and Brooklyn CD5 Walk to Park.
Great. Thank you very much. On behalf of the applicant team here, we have Colleen Alderson, Robert Sanchez, Matthew Picarillo, and Shelton Getter. Some of them are here, some of them are on Zoom. For those of you who are here, come on and approach the podium. You have 10 minutes. I will note, commissioners, at the end, I'm gonna limit commissioner questions for each round to 5 minutes to the extent that that is necessary. So just be prepared for that. Welcome, good to have you here. And whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started. Just make sure that that microphone is on before you do. It has a little button at the base. Just make sure it's lit up there.
Good morning, City Planning Commissioners.
One second, we'll look. You should be able to use a clicker.
Here we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. My name is Colleen Alderson. I'm the Chief of Parklands and Real Estate, part of the New York City Parks Department, and part of the Environment and Planning Division. I'm joined by Robert Sanchez, Planning Fellow for the Planning Unit at New York City Parks, who will also be presenting. Shelton Getter, DCAS Assistant Director of Leasing and Acquisitions, is also attending to respond to technical questions as part of the acquisition process. I'm here to testify on behalf of Parks' application to site select and acquire parcels for future park development in Brooklyn Community District 5 and Queens Community District 3. New York City Parks is the applicant for the application, with DCAS as the co-applicant. These applications are part of an effort to address some of the most underserved neighborhoods in the city in terms of public open space. As we are all aware, parks are critical infrastructure for urban areas. Beyond places to rest and recreate, parks provide space for social connections, experiencing nature, environmental benefits like cleaner air as we can preserve and add to the city's tree canopy, resiliency to climate-related disasters, and of course the physical and mental health benefits they provide for our New York City residents. These important factors led Parks to pursue a new strategy to realize new parks in underserved communities. In support of this strategy, many citywide plans and policies advocate for the importance and creation of new parks, particularly in underserved areas. The Mayor's Office Get Stuff Built Initiative 60, also known as the BLAST initiatives, encourage New York City Parks to pursue a new type of ULURP authorization for land acquisition using criteria-based triggers in certain areas of the city. One NYC set the goal of 85% of New Yorkers living within a walk to a park by 2030. We're currently at 84.2%, which sounds like a pretty healthy number, but that leaves 1.4 million New Yorkers in gap areas, those areas shown in red. New Yorkers not in a walking distance to a public open space. A park and an appropriate walking distance from where people live is a key indicator to determining if people are accessing a park for all the benefits they provide. We also believe this focused effort will help address the availability of parkland within densely populated areas within a community district that may not necessarily have a walk-to-gap area, as we have seen how the city's median open space ratio has been on a downward trend. The open space ratio for parks, the amount of open space serving 1,000 residents, this is distinct from the open space ratio in the zoning resolution for a given zoning lot, is at a citywide median of 1.14. While in 2017 it was 1.4. That's at the community district level, and that's the median, and it was higher years prior. The OSR is a metric used by many of the country's most populous cities, in addition to also assessing and tracking walking distances for their city residents. To consider an acre of public open space such as Collier Gold Park or Howard Playgrounds in in Queens, serving 1,000 residents as a place to recreate, rest, and to create a gathering community space, or in Brooklyn, Woodtree Playground as well. It's an acre of space, but 1 acre serving 1,000 residents. Parks Initiative, Vital Parks for All, aims to improve the quality of our parks network throughout the city. It is an investment strategy that provides transparency and assesses the quality and quantity of existing park resources to determine where the agency should direct its funding and resources. In terms of growing green spaces, we have undertaken initiatives and efforts focused on expanding access to park resources in underserved areas of the city. This we do collaborating with Department of Education to open up more schoolyards so they can be amenities at times that the school is not using them. We have also partnered in recent years with NYCHA to improve some of their edge open space areas in our underserved areas, improving the spaces for NYCHA residents and also opening them up to community residents. We also pursue cooperatively with other city and state agencies to get jurisdiction of underutilized properties. We work with DCAS, DEP, unbuilt street right-of-ways, HPD. So we do also look at existing city-owned and also state resources so we can improve them as public open space. Despite these initiatives to expand park access for New Yorkers, looking at the walking distance to a park and in those areas with the low open space ratio, we still are need additional public open space. One of the most significant challenges we face is the length of the ULURP process, which is around 2 to 3 years from the onset of identifying potential properties for park development to the actual closing of the contract of acquiring the property from the seller. Acquiring property to transform into a public park is typically an arduous process in light of the dearth of property available and the time it takes to work through the required and necessary land use review processes. We also face the context of limited vacant available land. Property owners are not aware the city is interested in and serious about acquiring land for parks, and the inability to negotiate with property owners before ULURP approval is in place. This ULURP effort aims to assist in the city's acquisition approval process to realize new parks where opportunities may exist in underserved communities. We have developed this project in close coordination with the Department of City Planning to overcome some of these challenges. The neighborhood scale ULURP project was prompted by the Get Stuff Built initiative that I mentioned previously. This project aims to provide the required acquisition land use approval for a number of pre-identified sites suitable for parkland development and enable us to enter directly into negotiations with willing sellers, which will shorten the acquisition process. As stated earlier, the idea of a Walk to a Park initiative stemming from the city's sustainability plan, set the goal of 85% of New Yorkers living within a walk to a park. One of our main goals with this neighborhood scale ULURP is to close the gaps as much as possible and also to help with the open space ratio. I'm now going to turn over to Rob to go over more of the details of the application.
Thank you, Colleen. So in conversations with DCP, we developed some criteria to identify community districts to include in this effort. The first criteria is that there has to be more than 15,000 people per square mile living in a gap area in the district. And the second criteria is either having an open space ratio below 1.3 or a poverty rate higher than 17.9%. Using those criteria, we are left with 19 districts. And today we'll be focusing on Brooklyn Community District 5 and Queens Community District 3. These are the criteria for both of those districts. As you can see, Queens CD3 has a high unserved population, a low OSR of 0.91, and a poverty rate of 22.3. And in Brooklyn 5, they also have a high unserved population, over 25,000. Their open space ratio is fairly healthy at 3.15, although the poverty rate is also very high at 27.7. We wanted to look a little bit at the contextual factors as well. For Queens CD3, in their most recent community district needs statement, they do request more park spaces and additional recreational programming. And parks can also be used to help mitigate flooding in these neighborhoods, as well as reduce pollution in traffic-heavy areas. And in Brooklyn Community District 5, there has been a lot of ongoing development since the East New York rezoning in the 37th Council District, and there are over 4,000 units planned in the 42nd Council District. Given these upcoming developments, more park space will be needed to accommodate the growing population. We also wanted to highlight existing open and park resources in the districts that are operating under limited park hours. So this includes our jointly operated playgrounds, our schoolyards and playgrounds, and our community gardens. And while these are incredibly important resources, they are simply not open during regular park hours and thus provide less access. This is even more true in the case of Brooklyn CD5. As you can see, many of their existing resources are operating under these limited hours. With that, we developed criteria to identify potential sites to acquire within these districts. So for primary sites, we have a requirement that they must be vacant. They are a minimum of 5,000 square feet. They must be verified as suitable. We visited each one of these sites in person and documented their conditions. And then lastly, there had to be no active DOB permits indicating development. This is just an example of the type of sites we were looking for. And specifically in Queens CD3, we were left with 5 primary sites given these criteria, as you can see on this map. Some samples of those include this vacant lot used for parking at the time along 97th Street. This is actually the St. Mark's Church site. This portion of their lot is currently being used as a playground, and we are very interested in this site. In the community board recommendation as well, there's a lot of public support for this one. In Brooklyn Community District Set 5, we are left with 7 primary sites. This is a...
Okay, thank you. Your time's up, but we'll have plenty of questions for you, I'm sure. So pause there for a moment. Thank you. First of all, I'm just going to start off with a couple of questions, and then everybody has a question for you, it looks like. So just give me a second. Okay. I've got you. Okay, great. So first of all, I think you've heard some of the comments from the commission without a doubt. And I think, and I don't want to speak for anybody else here, but I think that there is a general interest or acceptance in creating a process that allows for more efficiency in land acquisition. I think the questions that you're going to hear really relate to how far should we go? Right. And what are the right criteria, and where's the line between where enabling a little more flexibility for the Parks Department, which I think we want to do, versus relinquishing any further control over the conversation for the city. So I know that the questions will come out, so I'm not going to do most of them. But let me just start with the eminent domain question, and then I'm just going to go to my colleagues for the rest, and I can clean up at the end. One of the components for eminent domain, again, recognizing this is not Parks Department's plan to use eminent domain. The proposal here is to give you the power to negotiate with an acquisition authority in your back pocket so that you don't have to come back to us on the other side. Fine. But acquisition authority does allow parks and the city to use eminent domain. And with primary and secondary sites in this number, we are enabling the city to use eminent domain over more sites than just one, which is what we would ordinarily be doing. What can you say to us that would give any comfort or confidence that that's not the plan, other than, best hopes and intentions, and that's something I'm sure that property owners also would like to know. So I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to go to my colleagues.
Okay, yes, on eminent domain, I think one of the purposes of this application and having multiple sites is that we're not beholden to one given property. So if there's no willing seller, if the city is not able to negotiate with an owner and meet their price, we have other options, so we can turn to that. So we're not beholden to a given site. We're not required to acquire a specific site. For some projects, that might be the case. For the storm resiliency project in Staten Island, a much different type of project. But for this, we're looking for open space opportunities. So the idea that we have multiple sites, we're not beholden to one property. If they're not a willing seller, if they don't want to accept what the city is able to offer, we will move on, and hopefully there will be another opportunity. So I think the structure of this application helps in that regard, and certainly during the public review process to date, we have definitely stated that repeatedly, that we're looking for willing sellers. So that is our intention, and I should also say that should there be a willing seller and we pursue the approval from OMB that's signed off on City Hall, the direction to DCAS is to start negotiations, and it explicitly states that it does not allow for eminent domain. They would have to craft that approval in that case. So there are a lot of folks that would weigh in and determine the way that the city approaches to acquire a piece of property.
Okay, thank you. One more from me, and then I'm going to go to Vice Chair Knuckles and others. One of the best arguments for this, in my mind, is, at least the way I have tried to explain it or the way I've understood it to date, is to give the city a little bit more leverage in the conversation and say, if we don't get a good deal here, we'll go there. Or if we don't like this deal, we're going to go somewhere else. It's not just putting all your eggs in one basket, putting all of our eggs in one basket and saying, hey, we have to have this site. It's the only site. It's the only one that's available now. But in your chart that you presented a minute ago about the order of operations, identifying a potential site, and then seeking an appraisal after, it wasn't this one, but maybe it's on here. There's a lot of boxes here. Okay, well, anyway, the point was the willing seller was identified before the appraisal, which sort of undermines the argument that I had in my mind, because I would have thought that you would be exploring best possible opportunities on price, by way of example, before you identify who you're potentially negotiating with. Can you just say a little bit more about that and how that order still benefits the city on its negotiating posture?
I'll just say that there are different areas within these districts. The fair market value could be very different in one area versus another, depending on the location of a given piece of property, a whole bunch of factors. I shall say that because we understand there is one willing seller, we do have a preliminary estimate on the value of one property. And the other thing is that the city's policy is that we don't want appraisal values to go stale. There is a timeliness with which DCAS makes an offer. So, and also our experience in working in all 5 boroughs in acquiring property, we have some sense of the values of these properties, and they can be very different depending on the size, all kinds of factors. But I think we have somewhat of a sense, and DCAS is the one that appraises property before they negotiate. So I understand we have not run appraisals on all of these 21 sites, but we do have some sense in the acquisitions that we've carried out in terms of the value question. So that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Vice Chair Knuckles. I have Commissioners Benjamin, Cerullo, Gold. Did I miss anybody? Another hand over here, and Crowell. Okay, for 5 minutes. Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chair. Just a basic question. What is the metric behind a walk to a park? Is it a block? Is it a half mile? Is it?
Yes.
What is it?
Happy to explain that. We post this actually information on open data too. We assessed a walk analysis on GIS from a park access point. And it's not just New York City parks, any public open space in the city. We count state and federal properties as well, and other public open space resources. So generally speaking, the larger parks over 6 acres, or if they're a destination park, we do a half-mile analysis. For smaller spaces, we do a quarter-mile walk analysis. So when we look at that, we run the analysis. We do this a couple times a year and report it out. We assess what that percentage is across the city. It has slowly gone up, which is a wonderful thing, and recently went up a bit because we opened additional schoolyards that were just recently announced and opened up. So we, as new sites are available to the public, we count them, and that's how we assess that.
So more than 6 acres, half mile radius, less than 6 acres,
quarter mile. Yes, and I would just say that different cities across the country, this is a major thing, really. Trust for Public Land is a big proponent of this idea, and different cities approach this in a different way. This is the New York City approach. We changed it a few years ago. We do feel like proximity is a really key factor in getting all the benefits that a public space, a civic space provides. If you're an elderly person, a mother with young children, a half mile is a pretty large distance to go, and a lot of people don't have cars, don't want to, if they do, pack children into a car and go to a park. You're probably not going to use that public park and get those benefits unless it was in closer proximity. So we think it's really important. There have been studies on this, and so we really take this very seriously. And, you know, the number has creeped up by a lot of the efforts that the city has undertaken, but we still have many New Yorkers that don't have the benefit of a public open space in near proximity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Benjamin for 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll speak really quickly. My first concern is you're talking about public open space. How did you consider private open space? For instance, in low-density districts where people have backyards, how did you factor that into your analysis? We, as many other cities run this, we don't account for backyard spaces. And there's, you know, they're wonderful things for people to have backyards, but they're not the same, we believe, as a local community park that provides all those benefits that I spoke about, the social cohesion. It could be also that that backyard may not be available to the residents in a given, if it's a two-family house. There also can be small, you cannot provide the kinds of recreation facilities that a public park can provide. So we do not account for private backyard spaces. What about space in, let's say, Stuytown? All of that green space is not public open space, so you wouldn't count it?
We don't, but I will say that we do consider it qualitatively. This is, you know, Co-op City in the Bronx.
Rochville Village in Queens.
Yeah, there are given spaces that are, you know, they do have public open space. We do think about it qualitatively as we're looking for the most underserved districts. So we do know those spaces exist, but we don't count it in that percentage to walk to park.
Okay, I understand the answer. How would you propose to enforce the primary versus the secondary? I've expressed before, as have others, that the primary sites which are vacant are one issue, and the secondary sites which have active businesses on, which I certainly would be opposed to acquiring. How do you propose to make sure that you're not negotiating with somebody in the secondary until the primary sites have all been
Exhausted.
Yeah.
I very much understand that, and we only look to the secondary because there's so few vacant parcels that we identified. Our preference would definitely be the vacant sites because, you know, a built property is a much different project for us. So definitely that's typically what we do is look for vacant open spaces. That would definitely be our priority. But because of the need we've identified, we do want to not foreclose other options. If a secondary site is a full thriving business, we don't anticipate that they probably will be in that willing seller category and we'll move on. We have heard from some property owners, I shall say that. And also for Queens Community Board 3, their resolution, they approved some sites, they disapproved others, but I shall say for the sites within the secondary criteria, there were members of the board that did approve them. So,
right, but there may be a difference between the owner of the site and the occupier of the site.
Of course.
And while the owner may be willing to negotiate, the occupier of the site, the lessee,
right,
may not want to leave, such as the M&H building on Atlantic Avenue, the bank, that the community spent years trying to get a bank.
Understood.
They finally have a bank, and now we put it on a list that could, in fact, be gone. I think my 5 minutes is probably... Okay. So my last question, I guess, would be, one, the Queens Borough President's request that one lot be taken off. Is that something you'd consider?
I think, is that the northern one?
That's, if you hold on 1 second.
I think it's the one close to LaGuardia, the northern part of the district.
Yeah.
It's about a 2-acre site. It's one of the larger sites in the district.
Yeah, it's 90-01 23rd Avenue.
Yeah. Yes. And that one is, the community board, actually, I think that was one site they did improve, I think because of its location and possibilities. That particular owner I have spoken with, and they have shared their plans. You know, whether we take it off, listening here, but I have spoken to the owner in that one, and this time I can tell you it's not a willing seller. They're looking to go in a different direction. I shall tell you for the larger sites, we are looking for a minimum of 5,000 square feet. So although a property owner might have ideas for a different kind of use, you know, if they were willing to subdivide a property, that is something that this ULURP would authorize us to do, to acquire. That could be a possibility. We also know that plans change. So there's a whole bunch of factors regarding that property. But again, I know the community board, they weighed in on that site, and I understand the Queensboro president as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cerullo for 5 minutes.
Hi, Colleen. So first I want to say anytime we're looking to, expand or enhance and create public space, it's sort of motherhood and apple pie in category. But I want to dig a little deeper into this, the program and the process. So this little process, little impact question. And I'm not clear on between the dialogue between the chair and you earlier about, aside from looking at the geography, how these sites were identified because we're looking for willing sellers, but yet we didn't cast the net in advance to a community that we've identified as being in need of public space based on the criteria established by the city, and then said, if you are interested in selling and discussing with us, come forward. Then the map was created of willing sellers. Doesn't mean you finish the process, but there's at least an underlying map of willing sellers. This sounds more like you identified locations that you think fit the criteria based on geography and perhaps other elements, and then are coming to the city for the authority to say, we now can negotiate, which I understand the acquisition approval is necessary for that, but we don't really know if we have a willing seller. And the impact where I'm focused on this is we're creating this impact on the site or sites we're identifying that have an incredible impact on the property owner. If there is an acquisition approval for a parcel, someone's property, this is of course in the private, we're talking only obviously private. How do we deal with the impact we've just imposed upon an owner who turns out to be an unwilling seller? We're missing that in this analysis because you've impacted the value of the land for sure. You've also tied my hands as an owner to what I can do with it, because who's going to, if I wanted to sell the property just because there's the authority for the city to acquire it, if you're an unwilling seller, you say we'll move on to someone else. How do you undo the authority to acquire that property? How does that happen if you decide we're not going to do it? And let's face it, the city's not going to say, you want to sell it? No. Okay, we're moving on. If the city is interested in this, we're creating the scenario where the city has the power through eminent domain ultimately, because we've given it, we've checked the box on the requirements for that by creating the acquisition authority. But also, we're sitting on this we've stamped sort of a scarlet letter on the land for the owner to do anything else with, because who's going to acquire this property if the owner wanted to sell it when it has this acquisition authority attached to it? And at some point, the city can come back, if this is a living, breathing authority, to say, well, we're going to go for it now. We left you alone last year or 3 years ago, but we're coming back now. I could be missing something in how this all works, but I'm really concerned about what that will mean for all the parcels we're identifying that the city's not sure it really wants. It just recognizes as being valuable in its vision. And two, we're also saying, well, if the owner doesn't want to deal with us, we're going to move on somewhere else, which is only what that moment in time would be creating. Someone else could come in so long as the authority we're granting them is still living and breathing.
Mm-hmm. I understand. I listened to the discussion at the certification stage where this question was raised. A couple of things I will just say is that we didn't have time to review it, but we do have a 10-year sunset clause on this. So there's a finite time that the city has the acquisition authority. I also say we have not mapped these sites as park. We have not done that as part of this application. If we do acquire a site, move forward with the capital project, we can do a city map change at that time, but we have not mapped any sites. We have not changed the zoning until the city acquires. The property owner can build as they wish as per zoning. I understand the idea that the city has gotten the acquisition approval and what that does. I do think in talking with our colleagues at city planning, at DCAS, at the law department, I don't believe that we feel like it inhibits a property owner in what they can do. I guess that's all I can say, but I do recognize that we have selected a lot of sites and that property owners may not be interested in selling their property, and we understand that. It's not the first time. So, we are looking to create a different pathway to realize new public open space, and this is the application that we've crafted. And I do believe the sunset clause and the idea that we've accounted for different sites to create the avenue to realize new public open space, I think that we feel confident enough that we will not cause harm to any existing property owners and the plans that they might have. The other thing I shall say is that if a property owner does develop their site and it doesn't meet our secondary criteria, we're not allowed to acquire. So if they do develop with housing, if they do develop it with something else that causes it not to meet the criteria, we're not allowed to acquire it. So that is what we've discussed with city planning.
Well, okay. I thank you for that explanation. I mean, I personally am just not sure legally what impact the authority of acquisition has on future permits and approvals for development. I know at the beginning you mentioned you avoided looking at sites, or if you saw a site and then you saw there had been building approvals granted, you took them off the list. That's consistent with if someone were going to develop it, it would no longer be an appropriate site. I just wonder how that plays out.
We need to move on, but there is just a legal question here, which is there any impact as a result of having acquisition authority on your site, on your ability to do anything, get a permit for something, get insurance for something, to sell your property, to develop your property? I think the answer is no, but you should confirm that for us.
Correct. And happy to, respond back again if that's helpful.
Great. That would be useful.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you.
Yeah, and I shall also say that working with city planning, we were advised by the different borough offices, there were some sites that we were asked to remove. So if they knew that maybe they didn't a property owner didn't pull a permit, but if they had heard of something or had some indication, they did ask us to pull sites. So I'll just say that as well.
Thank you.
And I think they really have a good tab. I shall say that we had pre-application meetings with the local council members, the borough presidents, and there was nothing indicated from them in their sort of contacts with citizens in their boroughs to cause pause to any of the selected sites.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gold?
Hi, thank you. It's definitely an interesting potential program. So, I commend you on thinking out of the box, but I just want to go over some clarification just to be sure we fully understand. So, or I do anyway. So when I think about this, it certainly simplifies the process and perhaps could be more efficient. Talk to me a little bit about the current procurement process, right? So set this aside, understood the ULURP process, certainly we understand, but internally at Parks, what capabilities do you have? I understand you're in charge of real estate there. When you think about procurement now, what happens? How do we negotiate a price, or is it all eminent domain? Just if you can, I kind of want to think about holistically, we're removing some guardrails if we push this through. So I just want to understand how, if the efficiencies, there and how you guys think about that, what happens now versus then, let's say.
Yeah, so should sites be approved for acquisition, and if we have indication that there is a willing seller, again, we have that 10-year window, which sounds like a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. We would work with our colleagues at DCAS. We work with them. They are the agency that is in charge of acquiring real estate for the city, including the Parks Department. They are the ones that assess the fair market value of properties, and they would inform the Parks Department of the cost. Now, we would not pursue the acquisition of a site also. I think this is maybe a question from our public review process to date. Until we could follow through, we do not have any intention to acquire sites and then keep a fenced off lot. So if we take the step where the Parks Commissioner is the only one that can write to OMB to move forward with an acquisition based on a ULURP approval, we attach the City Planning Commission resolution, we want to know that we can follow through on the acquisition informed by DCAS's evaluation. And we also want to know that we have the funds, the capital funds to improve and the ability to maintain. We do not want to move forward with the site until we have the life cycle costs understood. So that happens. There's a lot of scrutiny when we write to OMB to get permission for the city to negotiate and acquire property. Once that is granted, it's also signed off at City Hall. Once that is granted, with that, it's called a CBX. With that, DCAS can then reach out to the property owner who we've already been dialoguing with because they identified themselves as a willing seller, make an offer and negotiate. They go back and forth. If they strike a deal, they negotiate an accepted price. Then it moves into the contract phase. Contract, once that's executed, then it's transmitted to the law department for closing. And then once it's acquired, it's assigned to the Parks Department. Then we would pick up on the capital design process, design, procurement, and building, typically 3 to 4 year process, depending on the site. And the early part of that design process is there is a community input session. So our landscape architects, as with all capital projects, where we are reconstructing a park, an existing park, or a new park, we have a meeting with the community. What would you like to see here? Are you in need of passive open space, a playground, a basketball court, whatever it might be? They use that input to then design a park accordingly. It gets reviewed by the local community board and goes to the Public Design Commission. Once that is set, procurement and construction. So that is the process from ULURP approval, acquisition, and then carrying out the capital design process. It takes a lot of effort and many people to realize a new public park. I hope that answered your question.
So, sort of, in part. So I get, effectively, I mean, I think when we think about it, that piece of the process would be the same under this, right, as under the current. I get, what I'm trying to understand is procurement now, it sounds like, and tell me if I'm getting this correctly, DCAS is doing it either way, right, under this or under there.
Correct.
They're assessing the value, and I guess what we're doing from a parks perspective is framing it in a way where we have a list of sites. We can more quickly find the site and save some time on the ULURP piece and perhaps save some time on the efficiency. And stop me, by the way, where I'm wrong here. But at the same time, it's the same folks negotiating the value. It's DCAS today. It's DCAS under this.
Correct.
Is that
Correct. And I'll just say that I've worked for the Parks Department for many years, over 20 years. I've had many conversations with perhaps willing sellers, but once I explain to them that the city is not able to make you an offer, because that's their first question, how much will the city offer me? I say, explain the ULURP process. They're not interested in waiting.
Right.
And that's really what triggered this. So it's the same process. It's just that we're selecting more sites as possibilities for acquiring a site.
Right. But again,
last question.
Sure. Just so I get this correctly. Effectively, now you still can't come to them with an offer. You can just say the offer will be quicker because we don't have to go through the
Right, we're
process,
past the
right?
ULURP phase.
Mm-hmm.
So once there's a willing seller, we can go to.
Okay.
I don't have to say we wait 1 to 2 years before the city can move forward to make an offer, because that is really their question if they're interested in selling. That's their question.
Got it. All right. So the net is even if we remove some guardrails, it's still the same negotiation process.
Correct.
And there still are many guardrails in there.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Crowell?
Thanks, Chair. I was a eminent domain lawyer at the City Law Department for a number of years, and I look back on those years and with this process, and I want to commend you on it. It's very innovative, and it has appeal. I think there are some procedural things that based on what my colleagues are saying, certainly need to be looked at. What Commissioner Cerullo was pointing out, I sort of suggested to me, and we just sort of talked about this, suggested to me that there would be some sort of a cloud over the value on the almost like a cloud on title, but not per se title. And maybe it would be helpful to look at and discuss with some of the lawyers in the tax and condemnation department at the law department whether suggestions of eminent domain proceedings or just acquisitions in general do affect those issues in terms of the economics. The other thing is it possible that there could be a shorter period instead of 10 years, something that's slightly more limited, but still gives you the flexibility to do some longer range planning that wouldn't have that out over the property.
To your first point, we certainly can discuss further with colleagues that I work with all the time in the law department for acquisitions. And then in terms of the sunset clause, where this application is 10 years is being proposed, that time frame, we originally didn't have one, but city planning and in talking with them, they suggested it would be a wise thing to create as part of the application. To some of the points many of you have raised, to help in that this is not forevermore. In terms of the exact years, we would have preferred 20 years. There was a suggestion of less, but we settled at 10 years. It felt like a good, healthy number, but not so long that it might inhibit, be, a concern or people have forgotten about it or what have you. We've selected a lot of sites, and we do intend to do outreach to owners. We've heard from some, but not all. And so should the application be approved, we also want to make sure that we're following up with the owners, so they're aware, please let us know if you're interested. I've heard from some property owners, they, shared whether they're interested or not, posed questions, all kinds of conversations I've had. And, some have said, keep me posted, please follow up with me. And we intend to do that, at least once a year for 10 years out. I know also the community boards also want to keep in very close tabs to this. They're very interested because of the number of sites. Which sites might you end up acquiring? They want to be aware where there's a willing seller, our process in acquiring. So they very much want to keep close to the process because this is a very unique application with so many sites. They're very interested. The districts are large, they're in different locations, and these are sites in their community. So hopefully that's answered your question.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shelton Getter, and I'm with DCAS and work closely with Colleen and other agencies on meeting their acquisition needs. And I would just like to share with everyone the effect of ULIP on private owners' properties. In isolation, ULIP has a de minimis impact on private properties' value. What it does is everyone has sorted out here. It compresses the time in which the city can act and negotiate in really high liquid situations where owners are interested in selling their properties, the city is interested in buying, but the city cannot react competitively in the negotiation process. So I just wanted to share, in my opinion, and I've been in this business for a couple of decades, that in most instances where Parks Department and other agencies have not been given and granted, let's say, pre-ULIP authority, and they are very interested in acquiring a property, and that property is in a robust market and has other interests, it is likely that the city does not end up reaching its goals and that agencies cannot continue on with their business plans surrounding that property. I just wanted to say that. If there are any other questions regarding this topic, please feel free to
Thank you. Well, thank you. We'll let you know. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We're now going to move on to Commissioner Osorio for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation, the materials, addressing our questions. As you probably heard, I'm also very interested in this approach. I think it's proactive. It anticipates the need for additional open space, particularly as we increase residential and commercial density across the city, in places where we're seeing actually the open space ratio go down, even when we're creating more open spaces. And so I get it. I have a couple questions, perhaps just because we only have 5 minutes. I was wondering if you had a chance to review the comments on the conditions set by the borough president, by the Brooklyn borough president. And I'm wondering if you can respond to them, if you want to summarize today, but not, if not in writing, because I want to understand, really how far can we address them. I think that what they're asking makes a lot of sense, and I want to understand if you think they're feasible.
Sorry, I have not. I'm very well attuned to Queens Community Board 3 and their comments, but unfortunately, I'm sorry. I don't know if you don't mind sharing with me, because I would love to respond.
Sure. So there's 4 big points. One is whether there is a commitment for a coordinated capital strategy to successfully acquire the properties. One thing is that, to ask for the authority or the authorization to be able to move quickly. But the other thing is any type of assurance that you're actually going to do something within the next 5 years, within the next 10 years. And if you're doing something like, how much of a budget are we talking about, just to understand how prepared is the agency to move forward.
Sure.
So, do you want me to summarize the other ones? Because we only have 5,
sure.
Maybe, I can cover them now and there could be a response in writing.
Well, you can use your time however you wish, Commissioner. Okay. You want to pose the questions, they can respond to you in writing if they're comfortable with that.
It's just that there's 3 more.
Okay.
And so,
why don't you pose all of them and pose all of them together and then give them the time to respond and
Great, thank you. So the second one is outstanding park and open space deficiencies in other community districts. I think that has to do with the methodology of why these 2 districts first, and what is the criteria to identify or prioritize these as compared to other places. But also within these 2 districts, why is the priority acquiring more land as opposed to investing in existing and improving their conditions? I think that applies to the third point, which is specifically on ADA assessments and requirements. And then the fourth one has to do with improved landscape and increased tree canopy, to which I would add impermeable surfaces. But again, I need to understand what is the overall methodology, because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you said is that the prioritization has been the result of a proximity analysis alone, but there's no real analysis on, let's say, public health conditions. Where do we have prevalence of obesity or diabetes, where you need access to open space as well? And so I'm just giving you an example, but really interested in understanding your response, and maybe on the first point, which is I share it very much.
Yeah, so on the capital budget for this effort, we do have some capital funds to acquire and develop properties. It's not enough, but I shall say that this, we believe, is a very important effort. And just like the Community Parks Initiative, it was an initial allocation that then became baselined. It's not atypical for the Parks Department in cities across the country to have an allocation through their budget office to acquire properties. And we do believe that this is a worthwhile effort and deserving of that. So we do have initial funds for some acquisitions and development. We also, in the recently adopted budget, the council also provided some funds towards acquisition. So we do have that as an initial start. And we do look towards that becoming a baseline project. We also have typical rounds of projects where we put in capital needs to OMB. So we also have opportunities as part of the capital plan process to also put in requests as well, the baseline or a specific allocation for specific sites for a specific district as we get the ULIP approval. Why these 2 districts first? I'll just say that we've been working with city planning since before COVID, and we looked at, it really gave us an impetus, plus the Get Stuff Built report was a big push in all of this, and working with many folks at city planning, why these 2 districts first. We've identified 19 that make our criteria, and we are looking at, we chose these 2 districts because of the level of underserved, so looking at the population numbers and looking at the other metrics. And I shall say that we could not to go through all 19 in one cycle would be very difficult. So city planning advised us, and we started with these, which we believe are some of the most underserved of those 19.
Just really quickly.
We're at time, so
clarification.
Go ahead, let's just finish that up, and then we have to move on to the other items today.
So just for clarification, underserved now or projected needs?
No, underserved now.
Okay, but
now.
you see the point there about, okay.
Looking at now, and then investing in existing parks. You know, we have our community parks initiative. We get allocations through mayoral, borough president, and council members to address capital needs in parks. That continues on. And so that happens. ADA requirements, we're beholden, as our capital design division has to meet all the ADA requirements when we're doing a capital project. And certainly with tree canopy, sustainability, we have our own sustainability guidelines that we work with at the Parks Department to make sure that these spaces have multiple benefits for communities. So there's a lot of things built in our typical process that we address, the ADA, tree canopy, resiliency features, that kind of thing.
I would appreciate anything that you can provide in writing in response to these. This can help us understand how, you know, we as a City Planning Commission can help provide some clearer guidance on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Thank you very much to both of you and to Shelton Getter on Zoom. We appreciate your being with us today. I'm going to see if there are members of the public who wish to be heard on this item now. There appear to be none. Thank you very much. We will close the hearing on calendar 1819. Let's move on to the next item.
For Brooklyn, calendar numbers 20 and 21, 1720 Atlantic Avenue rezoning, CD8. Calendar number 20, C230316 ZMK. Calendar number 21, N230315ZRK. Public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 1720 Atlantic Avenue rezoning.
Great. Thank you very much. I see, and I don't know if everybody is together, but I believe they are, Jay Goldstein, Brian Cook, Jonathan Imani, and Soli Bawaba.
Bawabe, yeah.
Okay, great.
They're part of the application team, the
Terrific.
owner and the architect.
As soon as you're ready, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
There's an Adobe thing here, an error message.
Okay, we'll get you set up. Hang on.
Jay, just say next.
Next. Runs into my time. All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today. We're here on behalf of the Bawabe family and Bermuda Realty for a proposed zoning map amendment and tax amendment to the property that's located at 1720 Atlantic Avenue, which is the corner of Atlantic Avenue, Pacific Street, and Schenectady Avenue. Next slide, please. The site has been zoned M11 since 1961. It's composed of 3 tax lots, 48,000 square feet. The existing building is about 29,000 square feet and is a 1-story commercial strip mall. The proposed action seeks to create a C44D, R7A, and R7A C24 district, which would allow for a mixed-use building to create 300,000 square feet, about 230,000 square feet of residential, 300 dwelling units, 84 affordable housing units, with up to 70,000 square feet of commercial and community facility at the first and second floor. Next slide, please. Next slide. There we go. As you can see, this property is a corner property. It's an M11 zoning district. The proposal would have mapped C44D along 270 feet of frontage on Atlantic, with R7A along 210 feet on Pacific Street, and a C24 commercial overlay at the corner of Pacific and Schenectady. Next slide. The next slide is just the tax map, so we'll skip to the slide after that, if you will. Next slide. Sorry for the technical difficulties. This project site is an underutilized site, and we believe that the proposed map amendment and proposal before you would allow the building to provide commercial and community facility space and the residential space in a site that currently is an existing commercial. The commercial tenants have been with us a long time, and we are in conversations with them to bring them back at the end of the project. We do have relationships with them, long-term relationships with them, that we seek to bring back, especially the supermarket, which is located at this site. which will create an updated site to the commercial space, as well as community facility and residential, which don't currently exist. Next slide. Under City of Yes, only the R7A received the bump up, but it allowed us to go from 278 units to 300 units, increasing the number of affordable units from 70 to 84. Next slide, please. The building itself, as you'll see, we designed it with the massing to be along Atlantic Avenue, so you'll have up to 13 stories along Atlantic. And we did this with the intention of having a transition between Atlantic and Pacific with the split zoning, so that as you progress from Atlantic along Schenectady to Pacific, you go down in the building and the transition so that it better matches the residential across the street. Next slide, please. And the slide after that. So it's proposed to be MIH option 1, which will be 25% of the building at affordable housing at 60% AMI, is 84 affordable units in perpetuity. Next slide, please. And the building was designed with long-term in mind. We have 50% of the building, which is unique for these types of rezonings, which will be 2- and 3-bedroom buildings, more geared towards family-size units.
Take 20 extra seconds because of the technical difficulties here.
So we'll just skip this proposal. Provides a 20% increase to the overall affordability within this area. So we believe that this building would provide a significant benefit to the community to provide residential and community facility and commercial space. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Let me see if there are questions for you. Starting with Commissioner Osorio.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation. I don't know if you heard my questions on the review session, but basically there's two. The first one was, what was your general response to the conditions or recommendations from the Brooklyn Borough President regarding the need for a greater number of affordable housing units, deeper affordability? And then the second one, I think you already hinted at that regarding the opportunity to lease the space in the new commercial development at the same rental rate as folks currently pay. I mean, I think that these two are building on, you know, wanting to really explore the public benefit of zoning M to R.
Right. So I think both questions are kind of related. Where we're working now on the underwriting for the building to see what we can do in terms of affordability. I would note that as opposed to the 25%, which is the base, we actually are proposing 28% affordable. And we hope to be able to see if we can do something, but we're underwriting it to see what's feasible. In terms of the commercial tenants and affordability of their rents, we are working with those tenants. We have long-term relationships within this property as well as other properties throughout that we hope to be able to bring them back at reasonable rates. It obviously depends on time, depends on cost, depends on what we're able to underwrite, but we are committed to those tenants to try and give them the opportunity to return.
Thank you. Thank you for considering them and keep us posted. I would love to understand how far you can get in both. And the other question has to do with the sustainability measures of the building. I was wondering if you can help me understand a little bit what is the energy performance, what are the energy standards, and specifically whether or not you're going to be producing renewable energy on the building and how much.
So I actually added a slide, it was slide number 12, but we didn't get to it because the clicker was broken. But we are proposing an energy efficient building with updated energy, electric, and heating and plumbing. It's a moving target because I think they're proposing to change the energy code to more stringent requirements. So it will be an energy efficient building. It will have provisions for, you know, open space, green roof, things of that nature. But it'll change over time now, depending on what they come up with this new energy code.
Have you considered an ultra low energy designation here as per the City of Yes for carbon neutrality?
I'm not sure. I have the architect with us, but I think I think it may be premature in our planning for this exact building.
Well, it could have been explored this stage.
Again, I'm not sure, so let me ask the
enough.
architect, Jonathan Imani from IMC Architecture.
Could you just repeat that question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you've considered an ultra low energy definition as per part of as the main incentive that the department created with the City of Yes for carbon neutrality.
We have not, but we could definitely look.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. And anything that you can provide in writing in terms of the plan for us to understand, you know, how you're planning to implement this would be great. Thank you.
On one of the slides, you can see also we did add that in response to comments at certification, certain amenities that we are considering for this building, but we can add additional comments if necessary.
Do we have the slide?
Yeah, I just didn't get to it. Apologies. I believe it's slide number
Pull up the slides.
12.
Just let us know. slide 12?
I think so.
Okay, we'll pull up
Thank
slide
you.
12 and put that back on Zoom.
Thank you. Or if you can just submit it or send it to
Submit
us,
it, you guys
that would
have
be, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Provide that.
Okay, all right, no other questions for you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't see members of the public wishing to be heard on calendars number 2021. Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll close the hearing on calendar 2021, the 1720 Atlantic Avenue rezoning. Thank you. And let's move to the next item on the agenda.
For Brooklyn, calendar numbers 22 and 23, 699, 703 Lexington Avenue rezoning. CD3, calendar number 22, C250194ZMK, calendar number 23, N250195ZRK, public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning 699, 703 Lexington Avenue rezoning.
Great, and on behalf of the applicant team here, we have Benjamin Stark, Danielle Minelli-Pacnata, and Kimberly Murphy. Welcome. Whenever you're ready, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, my name is Ben Stark. I'm a land use attorney at Hirsch & Singer Epstein, joined by Danielle Pacnata from Providence House, the applicant, and Kimberly Murphy from ESKW, this project architects. As introduced, this is a zoning map amendment and associated text amendment in Brooklyn Community District 3 by Providence House. Providence House is a Brooklyn, specifically Bedford-Stuyvesant-based social services organization with over 40 years of experience working with women and women-identifying persons with lived experience in the criminal justice system. Their work includes transitional housing and associated wraparound services that are comparatively small in scale and focused on peer support and an individual's case-based approach delivered through a trauma-informed lens. As part of that mission, Providence House seeks to redevelop its current headquarters at 699 through 703 Lexington Avenue and requires a small zoning map amendment to achieve a building mass that is viable for this type of program. Next slide, please. Oh, let's get right through that, and I already gave that. So this application, again, is taking place at on Lexington Avenue in Bedford-Stuyvesant. You can see it positioned here on the map in Community District 3. This is between Stuyvesant Avenue to the west and Malcolm X Boulevard to the east. I also put up on the screen Providence House's other locations throughout Bedford-Stuyvesant on Halsey, Hancock, and Kosciuszko. The application seeks to take an existing R6A zoning district that is mapped generally in a north-south positioning along the avenue, although you'll see shortly that it's not a particularly consistent condition. There's a sort of sawtooth to this R6A, in which is already mapped over the westernmost 2,500 square feet of Providence House's property, shown in white there on the bottom left, over the balance of Providence House's property, a zoning map amendment of about 10,000 square feet to bring the full 12,500 square foot Providence House site within the R6A. That would remove a portion of the R6B in this mid-block area, and this would result in a development capacity for the proposed use group 3 nonprofit institution with sleeping accommodation use of just shy of 40,000 square feet of ZFA. Danielle here is going to tell you a little bit more about this site where they currently have their headquarters and an existing transitional housing program on the western edge.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Minelli-Pacnata. I'm the Executive Director at Providence House. Thank you to the commissioners for having us, the chair and the vice chair. As Ben said, Providence House has been in the Brooklyn community for over 45 years. We work with women and families who are impacted by homelessness and criminal justice. We really work hard to maintain a small footprint for our programs. That's kind of our secret sauce. Creating a space where women can support each other, stabilize, heal, and move forward with their lives. We have been at the site in question, those 3 buildings, for over 25 years. The white building is currently, the second floor is our administrative office, and the 2 brick buildings are currently a hybrid of our women's justice program, which is the program we seek to expand at this site. Prior to that, we had a Tier 2 homeless shelter, family shelter running at the brick buildings. And as that sunset, we transitioned the brick buildings to the women's justice. site. What we're trying to do here is really maximize the biggest resource as a fairly small nonprofit in the Brooklyn area. We saw an opportunity here to co-locate our administrative offices, which have been there for a really long time, and add some capacity. There's over 450 women on Rikers right now. We're taking women from Rikers and the state system. We can make a huge impact to the census there. As we know, many of the women on Rikers are not convicted. We work with those that are in the process of waiting for trial. A lot of times when they're with us, we can help them navigate that process more seamlessly, a lot of times diminishing, if at all, seeing them being convicted, helping them show for different court appearances and such, but most importantly, helping them kind of to start to rebuild their lives while they're with us. I think I'll stop there and then switch back to Jen.
Just going to explain a little bit more about the technical side of the proposed zoning map amendment. On the left there, you can see the existing zoning map, and just a little dot in red there, you can see Providence House's site highlighted. This R6A district was put in place during the Bloomberg administration when we had our wave of contextual zoning map amendments on neighborhood scales. And in some respect, it mirrors the pre-war condition that we find in the neighborhood, but there is some there were some areas of the R6B that possibly could have been R6A right out of the gate. And we feel that Providence House's buildings, particularly on the western edge, it's to 4-story walk-ups, could have just as easily already been zoned R6A. And this is a fairly common condition in this neighborhood and neighborhoods like it, where density was predominantly focused on the avenues, particularly on corners, and sort of melting away towards the mid-blocks. And we think the proposed R6A mirrors that condition and strengthens it. I mean, I probably should have provided an aerial here that wasn't so washed out, but what you can sort of see just to the block to the north on Gates is similar 4- or 5-story walk-up buildings that are outside of the R6A, and again, could have just as easily been zoned R6A. So this zoning map amendment, in our view, is not just mirroring, in a sense, existing conditions at a contextual scale, but is allowing for modest growth in a use that is desperately needed for a underserved population here. We have Kimberly Murphy here, who can speak a little bit more to the interior program of this building, which, as a nonprofit institution with sleeping accommodations, is fairly unique in its layout and sort of specific programming.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. This rendering indicates a 6-story building, which we would be able to develop with this application approval. We wouldn't be able to accommodate this many beds in this size of building if we are not able to get this change in zoning. When we were approached by Providence House, we studied the existing buildings, we looked at what could be done, how many beds they could provide, and the math wasn't mathing. So we looked at how close these two sites were to be, what kind of improvement we could get for the project if we could enlarge the building, and this is what we came up with. We engaged with the women with lived experience, with the community, with the organization, and kind of built this project around the responses from the people that have had an impact with justice system. So this is the ground floor. The plan is to have about 6,000 square feet of administrative offices located on the first floor and on the cellar. We are providing a very generous backyard. The main entrance would be shared by the 85 women on the upper floors and with the staff that would be using the building from the Providence House staff. They've also decided to indicate or dedicate a community room that could be used by all the women and maybe bring in people from the community for programs. This was in direct response to kind of the needs of the program and the women to be invested in the community. So this is a typical floor plan, and what's really special about what Providence House does is they give, and we heard this from the women who have lived experience with coming home from prison and from incarceration. They needed their privacy, they needed to feel safe, they needed to feel like they could come out on their own terms. So having a single room for each of these individuals and then having shared common space. So what you see are sort of, the layout is 4 wings, sort of 4 smaller hallways with single bedrooms off of each of those corridors. Each 4 of those wings would share a single user bathroom, which is very different than what they would have in most shelter or within incarceration, where they would have group toilet rooms. So it was a very conscious decision that we made. And then they have access to a kitchen at all times. So that's really what's very special about this program, is that each of the floors serves as a bit of a neighborhood and allows each of the groups to feel safe within their designated floor.
Thanks. So I just wanted to close by saying the Women's Justice Program is really at the heart of what Providence House has done for a very long time. This isn't a decision we moved into quickly. Our first conversations with both the architect and the attorneys on ULURP happened over 4 years ago. We thought about all of the different options, permanent, transitional, hybrid, and this is really kind of the best use of the space, kind of with the most accommodating impact to the community where we've been so long. We want to sink our roots deeper in and continue to work with women who are coming home and help them transition positively. So thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Let me start with Vice Chair Knuckles.
Thank you for your presentation, and you have a noble and worthwhile mission, undoubtedly. I'm just wondering, this is transitional housing?
That's right.
How long do your occupants stay, and what's the plan when they leave there? What's the plan?
So the current Women's Justice Program is funded through the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. It's transitional housing that was in the points of agreement with the closed Rikers bills. Yeah. So currently women can stay 18 to 24 months. The new program is envisioned with DHS funding, but we have applied for a program to allow women to stay about a year and a half. So, and when people leave, they go to permanent housing, most typically. We have a recidivism rate or a lack of recidivism rate of less than 7% of women go back to jail or prison who have come through our programs over many years. Many of them go into permanent supportive housing. Some go back and live with family in the community, and some do enter treatment programs.
Amongst your administrative officers there, and what I assume are support services, is there vocational training of any kind? Is there, what kind of?
So Providence House is primarily, I'm sorry, we weren't able to bring drinks in and I'm very choked up. Providence House is primarily a housing organization. Right. So what we do is we partner with community-based groups for vocational, job training, education, behavioral health, medical health, all of that. We look to have women go seek those services in the community so that they can kind of continue them as they're out in the community living permanently. That's the way that we set up our model. Not to say that we don't, as you had mentioned, have robust social services on site. So we do have social workers, case managers, and a psychiatric nurse practitioner. But the goal is to really help women integrate back outside.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Benjamin?
Yeah, in HRA's transitional housing that they have done in the past, the agency offers and looks around to try and find housing for the women and has to make 3 bona fide referrals. Is that true in this transitional housing, that you are helping them find the housing, or are they on their own to find the housing?
No, there's actually, there's housing specialists who are also, we're part of right now part of a larger consortium, and there are housing specialists that come in. The challenge, quite frankly, right now is that MOCJ, when women come through transitional housing, aren't always considered homeless in that transitional housing. So with the new program, we will be under the DHS model where they'll have that homeless criteria. And you're right, when people are going out to seek permanent supportive housing, there's that 3-for-1 slot. Right. So yeah, we are able to send some women through it now based on mental health issues, not the homeless, but in the new iteration, we will be under the DHS HRA umbrella.
Well, I know that part of the problem with the HRA transitional housing and moving people out was that oftentimes the units that were available to them, that they were showed, were not desirable because they were either not in great shape, not in the neighborhood that they knew, not in a neighborhood where they felt safe, and for a variety of other reasons. The showing 3 did not really work very well. And for a while, at least, I don't know if it's true now, in order to accord with the 18-month stay, HRA would begin the eviction process after 6 months. I mean, they wouldn't evict them then, but in order to try and ensure that at the end of 18 months, the person would actually be leaving, how have you found that, and will you be doing something? How will you, I don't want to say enforce, but how will you encourage people so that at the end of 18 months, they're not evicted or left with no options?
Yeah, I want to clarify that this would be under the DHS umbrella, under DSS,
yes.
Big umbrella.
Yeah.
And just for transparency, I worked for DHS for about 12 years, and so I, definitely understand the plight of moving folks from transitional to permanent housing. It's a real challenge. The more subsidy resources on the table, the better. And we did have a bunch of federal vouchers that came through prior to this administration that were helpful in moving some of our women out. I think, honestly, one of the solutions might be having women in shared apartment settings, kind of from our transitional housing, where there's obviously many more moving out. We have a program called Our Journey that's run by women who have come through our program, and it really serves as a peer support. There's no like secret answer here. It's challenging. There are a lot of women with lived experience who are close to us. A couple are on our board, and so there's a good peer support network to kind of help people. But there's no secret answer. I think we would be as supportive as possible. I will say that we focus on stabilization when the women come to us initially, and then housing. Although we try to drive housing first, the women who are coming in, especially those from Rikers, are very acutely, they have serious mental health and physical health issues. So we really need to kind of like have a phase of stabilization. Once they're stable, we hit the ground running, and we have caseworkers and outreach workers who can go into the community with them to look at places. So they're not out there alone.
Okay, I mean, the one I was the most knowledgeable about was the old Amboy Street Transitional Shelter.
I don't know Amboy Street.
And their part of the problem which was for homeless women and families, transitional, or unhoused women and families. And their part of the problem was that the units at the Amboy Street Transitional Shelter were lots better and lots nicer than what they could find in the community, so that people were very reluctant to leave a place that was better with supportive services. I don't know how we get around that, but I'm hoping that we won't at the end of 18 months evict them.
Of course. No, we can't. The other thing is we're, as an organization, interested in developing more permanent housing. So we do have 4 permanent sites within Bed-Stuy. Well, actually 3 are in Bed-Stuy. One's in Prospect Lefferts Gardens. Great. So we try to kind of provide the entire continuum. We're conditionally awarded for an ESHI grant, which is a state supportive housing grant, where we'd like to create the permanent companion to this.
Well, and I'd just like to thank you. I know Providence House, you do great work.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys can continue to be part of the community in this kind of a positive, helping way. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Osorio, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I also I agree with my colleagues. Thank you so much for all your work. Just a quick clarification question from my end. You're going from 43 women and gender expensive people to 85, right? That's okay, thank you.
At this site, there's currently 25. We have an additional 18 at another site in Brooklyn.
Oh,
in the 2 brick buildings, there's 25 right now.
So from 25 to 85?
That's right.
So 50 more, okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
16.
Broken into 5 small communities of 17 each at each floor, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, No more questions for you all. So
Thank you very much.
Oh, go ahead. You wanted to...
I just want to thank the Brooklyn office and the various technical offices at City Planning who were just fantastic for us through our whole pre-certification process. This one moved very quickly, and it's because of the help at DCP. Thank you. And who came out to visit, and who came out to the community board numerous times, and just showed a real partnership for this very important project.
Love that. Thank you for saying it. I hope they're listening right now, and thank you. They're awesome.
They know who they are. So.
Thank you. Okay, I do not see members of the public wishing to be heard on this item. Is that consistent with your understanding, Madam Secretary?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, I'll close the hearing on calendar 22 and 23. Let's move on to one of the next items on the agenda today. Go ahead.
Okay, so we will return to 2425 shortly. We're going to actually jump to Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 26 and 27, 1551 Broadway, Midtown signage text amendment and special permit. CD5, calendar number 26, N250189ZRM, calendar number 27, C250188ZFM, public hearing in the matter of applications for a zoning text amendment and a special permit concerning 1551 Broadway.
Great, and we have Eric Palatnik here. Welcome. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
All right. This could be relatively fast. I think it's very straightforward, and hopefully the commission will agree. We're here today to allow for the creation of what is called an anamorphic billboard at 46th and Broadway in Times Square. Your commission has approved certification applications for other buildings nearby to have similar sized billboards, and those apply to properties that are 15,000 square feet or greater, one being the Palace Theater, you may remember, and the J.P. Morgan headquarters, right across the street. This sign, we're requesting to do the same thing, but the special permit doesn't apply to lots under 15,000 square feet of the certification. So we have created a special permit action that would apply to lots that are 10,000 square feet or less in the Times Square Special District that would allow them to waive the setback requirement at the 60-foot mark. This is supposed to be a 6-foot setback. If you're looking at the screen in front of you right now, the middle slide shows you what we are proposing, and it's also depicted on the left and the right. You'll see the lower portion of the sign, the larger portion, is what's at issue, and that is what we are waiving the setback. At 60 feet on that lower portion, it's supposed to set back. So this gives you a good depiction of that. You look on the left side, you can see that it sets back at 60 feet and then rises up. That's the existing condition. We're asking to build what's on the right side, which is an anamorphic display that's fully 3D, that gives you the impression of it being 3D. So this is the other signs in the area that already have it, like I just spoke about, under the certification. This is the sign technology itself. The lower image is probably a pretty cool image to take a look at it. What it really does, the top one, pretty cool too. But that's the idea of it. So it's really bringing Times Square into the 21st century. We have met with Community Planning Board 5. We supported it unanimously. I don't believe anybody objected to it, which is a rarity in this world. And we've also had pre-meetings with a council member, but I'll let him hold off on what his opinion is on it and when it's time for him to come to him. This image here shows you what's existing right now on the left and the right side. You could see the two areas outlined in yellow. They're not contiguous with each other, two separate billboards. There's a setback in between them and so forth and so on. That's why we're here, to eliminate that setback. One more thing we're asking you to do, and then that's the end of the action, is on the right side, you see that the current rule requires that for every 25 feet of frontage, a property needs to have one sign. I guess that was an archaic law created back when sign technology was limited, and they wanted to rejuvenate Times Square. It doesn't make sense. So this property would require 3 signs. In the text change, we're asking, in the special permit, we're asking to allow for 1 sign, and you can see that here. So these are the actions we're asking for. Relatively benign in the grand scheme of New York City. We're not creating any great housing development or anything like that, but we are creating and staying true to the cultural and entertainment intent of the Times Square district, which is the special purpose district, and that's the purpose of it.
Thank you.
And I think this brings it right to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palatnik. Let me just pose one question about sign C, which is what you're required to deliver among the 3 signs in the without waiver scenario.
Right.
Just can you just show us where that would have been on an image here as to where sign C would have been required to be located?
Oh, well, that's what it is right now.
Let's see.
So the left-hand side shows you.
I see. There it is. Okay.
Right. So if you could see it, the first setback, that's the setback that we're seeking to waive. And if the application is approved and special permit is applied, you would result in the...
So it essentially becomes a continuous straight up to 135...
135 feet, correct.
As opposed to having the 60-foot and the setback and then the extra.
As opposed to having a 6-foot setback at the 60-foot mark.
Understood. Okay.
And I'll call out also that the tower sign is as of right.
Yep,
There's no action for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, you're off the hook, Mr. Palatnik. Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for being here. I see no members of the public wishing to be heard on calendar 26 or 27. We'll close the hearing on this one and go to you, Madam Secretary.
Okay, we'll go to Borough of the Bronx. Calendar number 28, St. Raymond demapping, CD 11C200099MMX. Public hearing in the matter of an application for a city map amendment concerning St. Raymond demapping.
Great. We have on Zoom Richard Lobel, Fayan Betan, and Joseph Galido. Welcome to all of you. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. Thank you for hearing us today on the St. Raymond Avenue demapping application. Next slide, please. So this application would allow for the applicant to amend the city map in order to eliminate, discontinue, and close St. Raymond Avenue between Blondell and Waters Avenues. This is in the Westchester Square neighborhood of Bronx CB11. We would further seek to acquire this roughly 5,000 square foot portion that's adjacent to 3 to 4 of the applicant's lots. In total, the area of St. Raymond Avenue that would be discontinued and eliminated would be 34,500 square feet. The applicant would only seek to acquire 5,000 square feet. The remaining 29,500 square feet is within a city-owned subway yard. CB11 did recommend approval of the application, as did the Bronx Borough President. Next slide. This is the zoning map, which shows the area that would be demapped. The zoning map, which is not on my screen, but is coming up, demonstrates that the area is zone M11 and has been zone M11 since 1961. Again, I don't see the zoning map, but we can continue to the tax map. Next slide. Okay, and next slide. There we go. The tax map shows the area which would be demapped. Again, the area in white closest to Blondell is adjacent to 2 of the applicant sites, and the area, the remainder of which in the blue hatched area, is within the subway yard. You can see a map right here which shows other demapping areas, actions within the area. You can also see that of the surrounding streets, paper streets, this is the only one that is remaining to be demapped. There have been other actions with the city. While not all of the demapping maps have been adopted, the actions have been taken by the commission to demap all of these other streets spanning the yard between Blondell and Waters Avenue. The next slide shows a map, which is the actual demapping map, followed by the next slide, which shows the prior actions, including in 1966, 2004, and 2014, which demapped areas of Roberts Avenue, Ponton Avenue, and Chesborough Avenue, as well as Halpern Avenue in 1988. So the area that you can see in red would be the currently contemplated demapping. And just to note, the applicant has roughly 13,500 square feet of lot area surrounding the site. In the event that the demapping did go forward, they would now be able to demap and add roughly 5,000 to allow for a contiguous 18,500 square feet, then be developed pursuant to M11.
Great. Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Let me see if there are questions for you. We're going to start with Vice Chair Nuff and followed by Commissioner Munnin.
Thank you, Richard. I just wanted to reconfirm or confirm what I think you just said. The paper street spanning the rail yard would be 5,000 square feet of additional FAR. Is that what you said?
No, there's the total street bed that would be DMAP would be 34,500. Of that, 29,500 is within the rail yard, and 5,000 is within the is adjacent to the applicant's parcels. So it is 5,000 adjacent to the applicant's parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Marin.
Thank you, Chair. Richard, always a pleasure to see you. Can you bring up the tax map for a second? I just have a couple of pointed questions.
Production, if we could get the tax map back on Zoom.
There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you go to the next one? I think it was the next slide. That's good. So between Fink and Ponton, there is a new residential building. And between can you go one more slide forward? I'm trying to find this other street that I'm referring to. There you go. This is better. So between Fink and Ponton, there is a new residential building. And between Ponton and Roberts, there's a new transitional, I believe, homeless building there. And you're further up, I see that all these blocks are all sort of used by the adjacent tenants because they lead to nowhere, they're dead ends. Is the intention of the applicant to build a manufacturing building? What is the intent of the applicant by closing the street?
So,
just curious.
Yeah, no, of course. Currently, the applicant would build a commercial facility there, and so in the surrounding areas, there's some typical M11 low-lying commercial buildings. On the applicant's own property, one of the lots has a building less than 2,000 square feet. However, it's used for auto repair, and the remainder of the lot is primarily used for parking. This would allow the applicant, should they move forward to Department of Buildings, to develop one contiguous building and provide parking on the entirety of the site. It just doesn't make sense for them to develop with a 3,000 square foot parcel and then an additional 10,000 square foot parcel.
Do we know what the type of use will be?
We don't. Right now, they've said that this would just, and I guess to step back for a moment, the demapping merely allows the applicant to proceed with the city in order to move forward with a demapping and potential purchase and sale agreement. Many of these are not effectuated. The commission has approved them, and oftentimes they don't even ever get sold. The applicant here is committed. They would have to wait until after the demapping and after an appraisal. 6 months after that, the city can begin a transactional process. So number one is they don't really own the property yet. They would have to engage in that. But number two is, at this point, given the nature of their business, they are in commercial construction. They perhaps could use it for something related to a commercial enterprise. It is possible at some point in the future that in the event the area or the applicant site was rezoned to a different district, that they would be able to engage in different construction, including residential, were that to happen. However, at this point, they have no present intention in terms of that activity, and of course, would need to go through ULURP at the time in order to do so.
So I hear you when you say that the applicant, if zoned for residential, would build residential. Knowing that this corridor is becoming more residential, I know there's a church that's planning another building across the street. Would it be of benefit to explore having a residential development there? And just curious. I mean, I think that the hodgepodge in that community is really bad of uses. And as we see, it's moving west. So you're coming from Westchester to Fink to Ponton, Roberts, all that is becoming residential. So I'm just curious.
I think it would be wonderful to explore something like that. I don't want to speak for the applicant in terms of definite plans, and I think one of the reasons, Commissioner Marin, is that this process has been lengthy. It's taken about 5 years to get to this point. The applicant is thankful to be at this point of the process, and to the extent that we reapproached the department and had an application, that would absolutely be something that could be interesting at the site, and we have done in the recent past several rezonings within the Bronx and in the immediate area from M to residential. So again, totally an opportunity that, to the extent it did work out and the applicant did gain control of the property, they'd be happy to explore that. I just don't want to get too far ahead right now because they have been through the ringer on this one and are just looking forward to moving forward with the city merely to demap the site.
Understood. I appreciate the responses, Richard. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. Okay. I think that's all we have for you today, so thank you. I see no members of the public wishing to be heard on calendar 28, the St. Raymond demapping, so we'll close the hearing on that one and we'll move to the next, what I believe is the last item on today's agenda. We have a recusal from Commissioner Cerullo, and let us proceed.
For Manhattan, calendar numbers 24 and 25, MTA 125th and Lexington rezoning. CD 11, calendar number 24, C 250300 ZMM. Calendar number 25, N 250301 ZRM. Public hearing in the matter of applications for zoning map and zoning text amendments concerning MTA 125th and Lexington rezoning.
Great. And we have Paul Januszewski, Judy Gallant, and Julie Cowing. And also Richard Leland, who I don't know if is part of the team here or if you're separate.
He's a member of the public.
Member of the public. Okay, great. We'll get you next. Thank you and welcome. Okay, whenever you all are ready, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say good morning, but I think I can say good afternoon at this point, Commissioners. My name's Paul Januszewski. I'm a Vice President at the MTA's Transit-Oriented Development Group, and we're here today in connection with a proposal to rezone an MTA-owned site at East 125th Street and Lexington Avenue. You may recognize this as the former home of the Pathmark grocery store in East Harlem. That site was carved out of previous rezonings in an attempt to save it from redevelopment, but that proved unsuccessful, and that store closed in 2015, was demolished, and now sits vacant. Here today with Judy Gallant from Bryan Cave, who's our land use attorney for the application, and we have Julie Cowing from ACAREF, who prepared the environmental analysis, is here remotely. Get this. This application is being coordinated with the construction of the 2nd Avenue subway, which is a top capital project priority for the MTA. We'll bring the 2nd Avenue subway up to 125th Street. MTA just issued a $2 billion tunnel boring contract to extend the line up 2nd Avenue, creating new stations at 106th Street and 116th Street before turning west onto 125th Street, culminating at a new station on 125th between Park Avenue and Lexington Avenue, which is the subject of today's application. MTA plans to partly fund construction of the 2nd Avenue subway through transit-oriented development projects at future stops. The main tenet of TOD policies is to cluster housing density around transit-rich locations to minimize individual vehicular ownership and alternatively to encourage use of mass transit. This also creates more revenue for to fund mass transit, both through ground lease revenue to the MTA and through increased transit riders who are clustered around transit hubs. We view this as an ideal location for TOD because it addresses the city's housing shortage at a location directly above a new major transit hub, linked to Metro North trains running up and down Park Avenue, Lexington Avenue subways along Lex, and offering many connections to subways that can get you pretty much anywhere in the city. The land use in the surrounding area is a diverse mix
of residential housing of all different scales, commercial office buildings, mixed-use buildings with ground floor retail frontages, and public facilities. Despite previous area rezonings, several large lots remain vacant, undeveloped, or unutilized as parking lots along 125th Street, which is the neighborhood's main corridor. We're seeking to rezone Manhattan Block 1773, shown here. There are three lots on that block, Lot 20, 27, and 33. The MTA purchased Lot 20, shown on the left here, from a private developer for construction of the 2nd Avenue Subway Station in 2023. The adjacent Lot 27 was also purchased by a private developer who has filed plans with DOB to construct a residential project there under the existing zoning regulations. And Lot 33 is a firehouse owned by FDNY with no plans to relocate. As I indicated, the 2nd Avenue subway construction here is underway now. Prior to completion of the subway station work at this site, MTA plans to issue an RFP to seek a private developer to construct a residential building on top of the new station. It's critical that we understand the height, bulk, and framework for that overbuild now so that MTA can construct the foundation to support the building as part of the current 2nd Avenue subway construction work. Some surrounding images of the area. The one on your upper left, number 1, is looking north up Lexington Avenue with the site on your right. Second image is looking east on 124th with the site on your left. And the larger image, number 3, is a northeast perspective from the corner of 124th and Lexington. The site's current zoning is C4 4D district, permits less density and lower heights than much of the surrounding area. C4 4D has a maximum FAR of 7.2. The Park Avenue Hub subdistrict, outlined in blue just 1 block west, is zone C64, which permits densities up to 12 FAR for all uses and allows flexible tower regulations, which are not permitted in C4 4D currently. The East Harlem corridor subdistricts, outlined in green here, just adjacent to the site to the south and a block west, also permit higher densities, taller base heights, and lower non-residential requirements. If approved, the proposed rezoning would permit one of the first new 15 FAR residential buildings in New York City, following CPC's recent creation of the R11 district and its commercial counterpart as part of the City of Yes for housing opportunity. We think this is an ideal location for an R11 residential building constructed directly above a major new transit hub in a neighborhood that's desperately in need of more housing units. A 15 FAR residential building here could result in 684 new housing units. At least 171 of those would be permanently affordable under mandatory inclusionary housing regulations. As currently zoned, the site does not require construction of any affordable housing units. Now I'm going to turn it over to Judy Gallant from Bryan Cave, who will discuss the zoning changes in a little more detail.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Judy Gallant from Bryan Cave, Land Use Council to MTA for this project. As Paul alluded to, this application seeks a zoning map amendment to change the rezoning area from a C4 4D district within Special 125th and Special Transit Land Use Districts to a C6 11 district within the same special districts, as well as a companion zoning text amendment to map an MIH area over the entire zoning, rezoning area specifying options 1 and options 3, which is deep affordability. In addition, the application seeks a series of zoning text amendments to Special 125th. Specifically, these amendments would create a new subdistrict B in Special 125th that would encompass the rezoning area, modify the maximum base height in the Park Avenue Hub subdistricts for buildings on and within 50 feet of 125th Street from 85 feet to 125 feet. This would better align with the maximum base heights permitted in the confusingly named Park Avenue subdistrict of the Special East Harlem Corridors District, mapped to the north and the south. Make the height and setback regulations of the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict, as so modified, applicable to the new subdistrict B. And finally, modify the non-residential FAR requirement in the Park Avenue Hub subdistrict from 2 to 1.5 FAR and eliminate that requirement entirely on lots that include a transit easement under the Article 9, Chapter 5 of the zoning resolution. This would align with the lower commercial requirements in the Park Avenue subdistrict of East Harlem, again, which is mapped to the north and south of the Park Avenue Hub. The proposed C611 district permits a residential and total maximum FAR of 15 and a commercial and community facility FAR of 12. Under these regulations, development of the NCA-owned Lot 20 could result in a building with a maximum FAR of 15, 20 to 25% of which would be affordable permanently, a maximum base height of 125 feet, above which a tower with a maximum lot coverage of 65 feet to a height of 300 feet and 50% above a height of 300 feet could rise. We expect that the as-of-right height of a tower, even though it's a tower of unlimited height, would be about 400 feet due to the site's location in the flight path to LaGuardia Airport and the limitations of the zoning resolution in those areas. This height can be exceeded, but only by special permit of the BSA with the concurrence of the FAA and the Port Authority. Community Board 11 voted unanimously in favor of the application with conditions, and the Manhattan Borough President also voted to recommend approval with conditions identical to CB 11's, with the exception of the following 3 CB conditions: that the proposed zoning district be changed to C411, that the developer enter into a community benefits agreement, and that MTA use all income from the development of Lot 20 exclusively to fund the second phase of 2nd Avenue Subway. Julie Cowing from AKRF will address remotely any questions you may have about the environmental review.
Good afternoon.
Great.
I'm Julie Cowing. MTA conducted environmental review for the proposed action in accordance with New York State.
I didn't think you were going to get started right there since we're at time, so we will see if there are questions for your environmental review.
I'm
we
happy
have
to answer
questions from a number of commissioners. Let me start off by congratulating you on getting to this point. Obviously, it's a transit-oriented development, like the ultimate transit-oriented development proposal, and appreciate seeing you using the new tools that came out of City of Yes and the R11 and the 15 FAR. I just have one question, then we'll go to my colleagues. Just spend another minute talking about how this building will integrate into the station and what one might expect at the ground floor for the experience at that very, very important intersection right there. And then I will go to Vice Chair Knuckles and Commissioner Osorio.
Sure. Let me just see if I can get to, I had a slide which, I don't know if I can get to it here. I had it hidden. But the site...
We'll put the presentation full screen on PC1, and then you could click through the slides. 1 second.
Can you do it for me, Judy?
Yeah.
The one that shows the overall.
Yeah.
Down here. The site will primarily be a new station at below grade. Trying to get to a sketch here. It's hidden here. But anyway, there is a vent shaft which also comes directly from the station up, which limits the use of the site. But this, I guess if you can see this slide. There's a vent. There will be a ventilation shaft on the corner of 124th and Lex. The station will be below grade all on Lot 20. There will be a tunnel connecting to another station on Park Avenue. So you'll be able to enter from the trains along the Metro North trains along Park. Will be connected to the Lexington Avenue lines. There will be a portion of the site that's devoted to the entrance at grade, but then the building will be, over the whole station, and the structure that's supporting the building will be constructed as part of the 2nd Avenue subway station. Since we need that work to precede the residential building, that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you for that. Vice Chair Knuckles for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Lot 20 is what used to be the footprint of the path mark, the old path mark, right?
Yeah, the path mark was on 27 and 20, I believe.
Well, Lot 20 fronts 125th Street.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
That's the site where,
Right.
that's the MTA owned site.
Could you just go to the slide that has the massing of the building there on the corner? Yeah, that's right there. So, the building, the residential piece will only, looks like it extends about a third of the way from Lexington to 3rd Avenue. So the rest of that is the station.
Everything in blue is residential.
Yeah.
There's a gray.
The gray
portion on 124th is a ventilation shaft for the 2nd Avenue subway. And then the lighter ghosted building on lot 27 is a separate residential building.
Okay, but I'm looking at the, I guess that's the southeast corner of 125th and Lex. And the shaded building to the east of the residential is what?
That's another development. That's the other residential
The shaded one is a separate residential building. The developer has filed permits under existing zoning. So we're showing what can be built there under existing zoning.
So that building would also have a frontage on 125th Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the longest frontage you see here is 125th Street.
Yeah.
Lexington is going back to the gray building, and that's showing retail.
Understood. So, what is the coordination going to look like between the development of Lot 27 and Lot 20? Who goes first, and what kinds of constraints would Lot 27 be on? I'm assuming that their interests are subordinated to.
Yes, we do.
Yours.
We do have an agreement with a separate construction agreement with them, regardless of, what happens in terms of rezoning. We are expecting them to go first. They've already, submitted for permits, and they do not need to use Lot 20, the MTA site. They can do all their construction within Lot 27.
Okay. So they're not. To what extent are they impacted by the MTA?
There are some underground easements where the train is under the building, but their construction is not very impacted by it. The station is not underneath their property. Mostly under Lot 20.
Okay. So what is the projected time frame? This building will take the better part of the next decade?
It's quite a while. I mean, the construction of the 2nd Avenue subway is supposed to be open for service by the end of 32. So at some point before that, the MTA will issue an RFP seeking a developer, so that developer will be ready to proceed as soon as the station opens. So it could be, the longest we're expecting would be 2032 before this building would be constructed.
By which point, Lot 27 would have been developed?
I would assume so, yes. We're not in control of that project, but I'm expecting that to be constructed soon. Before
Who is the developer for Lot 27?
I believe it's JCS, but I'm not. They're not participating in this effort. They're aware of it, but I believe they have some other considerations, being grandfathered into the old 421A. And I think their intention is to proceed based on that rather than wait for a rezoning.
Okay.
But that's up to them ultimately.
I guess what I'm somewhat confused by is that at what point, because I always thought that, again, the Pathmark site extended from Lex to 3rd, or from 3rd to Lex, however you saw it. So at what point did Lot 27
There used to be one developer, a private developer, who owned both of them.
Right.
That developer split the lots and sold them. Initially, MTA started a condemnation
Right.
process for Lot 20, because that's what we needed for the station,
Right.
not Lot 27. But that developer did, we ended up purchasing it from them, and that developer also sold to a new developer for Lot 27.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Osorio, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the presentation and addressing our comments. I have 2 quick questions. The first question is whether you can please share your response to both the community boards and the board president's recommendation to prioritize, when the time comes, proposals that, number 1, include additional affordable housing beyond MIH, and number 2, at least 75% of the units being 2 bedrooms or larger. So I'm wondering if you can respond to that, or what are your comments on that?
Yeah. The MTA is a little different in that we're public land, but we're authorized by state legislation that requires us to, when we dispose of property, to get the highest value, market value for the property. So for us to commit to affordability levels beyond what's required by zoning, we would need to work with HPD or other city agencies to identify subsidies for that. So we've said, we're willing to do that. The RFP is quite a ways off, and the size of this building is quite large for a subsidy from HPD, but we are willing to explore those, but we can't commit to them without an identified additional public subsidy.
Thank you. I mean, given that this is almost a unanimous recommendation from both the community board and the board president, I certainly encourage you to explore. I mean, they're also explicitly encouraging you to explore every potential tax,
Right.
subsidy to achieve something like that. So appreciate anything that you can share with us or keep us posted as you consider what's possible.
Okay.
The second question has to do with you have well, in terms of the environmental impact assessment, I'm concerned with the proximity to the 100-year floodplain here. I think that technically you're outside in terms of the preliminary.
We're not in.
But as soon as we start, overlaying the projections, then there's a significant overlap. So I'm wondering if you can help me understand a little bit, what are the provisions that you're taking to create an underground subway station in an area that is so close to potential flooding?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer that because I'm not involved in the subway construction. Julie, are you able to comment on that?
I can. I'm not sure that's correct, that this station is in the floodplain. It's farther east, the floodplain, but all of the stations for this part of the subway are being flood-proofed, reflecting the flooding that does happen in East Harlem. They have entrances that are raised, and they have flood-proofing at all the above ground portions where water might enter. So that's definitely something that's part of the design.
It's correct. As I said, not in the preliminary, but with the projections, I think that there will be an overlap. So if you don't mind sharing some of the provisions in place, maybe to what the standard provisions are, that would be great, just to understand. It would be useful just to understand, how are you planning to mitigate that? Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much. That's all we have for you all. Thank you for being with us. We have one member of the public, Mr. Leland. Welcome. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Nice to see everybody after a while. I'm Rick Leland from Ackerman LLP. I'm speaking on behalf of our client, Bruckner 125 Street, LLC, to express its support for the MTA's proposed 125th Street rezoning. As the owner of a development site located at 132 East 125th Street, which is across the street on the southwest corner, we are fully invested in the redevelopment of this neighborhood, particularly of this adjacent site that MTA seeks to develop that has sat vacant for many years. The MTA's proposed rezoning is a significant opportunity for East Harlem. The proposed rezoning will enhance transit infrastructure, create more accessible and efficient transportation options for residents, workers, and visitors. Additionally, the increased density will bring more foot traffic to local businesses, including those near our client's property, stimulating economic activity throughout the corridor. However, while Bruckner 125th Street LLC fully supports the goals and anticipated benefits of the rezoning, I must express our client's disappointment as not having been included in the rezoning boundaries or consulted during the planning process. The benefits of this rezoning aim to bring to the neighborhood that would have been greatly enhanced by including other nearby properties in the overall plan. Bruckner 125th Street LLC is already planning to develop approximately 75 100% affordable housing units at its site under the current C4 4D zoning. Including its property in this rezoning would have resulted in over 100 additional 100% affordable housing units at this transit-oriented location, which would have aligned perfectly with good planning principles and the city's housing goals. I mean, for example, under current zoning, our client's property is limited to a 7.20 FAR and a height limitation of approximately 12 stories. Despite the above, Bruckner 125th Street LLC is supportive of the MTA's rezoning initiative moving forward and urges the commissioners to approve this proposal as a precedent for future development in this neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Leland. We appreciate your being with us. Okay. I see no other members of the public wishing to be heard on this item. Calendar 24, 25. So the hearing on this is now closed. The MTA's 125th Street Lexington rezoning proposal. Madam Secretary, what is next on our agenda for today?
There is no other business before the commission, but I do have some public information to share. For those of you who are unable to or did not wish to testify, you can submit written testimony online through DCP's website or by mailing your comments to City Planning Commission, Calendar Information Office, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, New York, 10271.
Great, and with appreciation to all members of the commission and members of the public who are with us today to testify. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the week. We are adjourned.
Time is 12:37 p.m.